Good evening, everyone. Before we begin tonight, I did want to make an announcement. The video streaming is having a bit of an error, so they can only see me tonight. They're going to see the presentation and me, but they won't see anyone else in the crowd until possibly later, and then also all of the wonderful pictures that we're going to post. So we're going to continue tonight, but there is just that minor adjustment. Good evening, President Carver, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Finch, Mrs. Taylor, district staff, and our room full of special guests. Tonight, we're continuing to recognize the hard work of our schools as they aim for top marks for the Arizona Department of Education. We might learn a word or 14,000 from the Sierra Verde STEM Academy students, and we'll wrap up by honoring a Flynn Scholar semifinalist, the fourth consecutive for DVUSD. As we have during the most recent board meeting award ceremonies, we continue to celebrate our 2024-2025 A-rated schools. With a grand total of 27 A-rated schools, DVUSD is once again recognized as an A-rated district by the Arizona Department of Education, or ADE, and approved by the State Board of Education. When the Arizona Department of Education released the A through F letter grades, we learned that 93% of DVUSD schools were A or B rated, meaning they're considered either A rated, performing excellently, or B rated, highly performing. ADE uses 5 quantifiable factors to determine letter grades that are approved by the Arizona State Board of Education. They compare student growth from year to year, proficiency in the AASA or ACT test results, English proficiency and growth, indicators measuring if an elementary student is ready for success in high school, and if a high school student is ready for success in career or higher education, as well as high school graduation rates. Tonight, we're celebrating 7 more extraordinary DVUSD schools as they've earned their A rating for the 2024-2025 school year. Principals, I will read a brief statement about your school. Then please come forward to be congratulated by Superintendent Finch and the Governing Board. We'll take your photo with each of your banners, and following that, you may roll them up and proudly display them on your school campuses. First up tonight is Mountain Ridge High School. Principal David Vines had this to say about the A rating as a school. We are thrilled to celebrate Mountain Ridge High School's achievement of earning an A rating. This accomplishment reflects the dedication, hard work, and commitment of our students, teachers, staff, and community. It showcases the vibrant learning environments we foster, where every student is encouraged to excel and accomplish their goals. Their A rating is not only a highlight of our academic excellence, but also signifies our strong sense of community and the support we provide to one another. Go Ridge! Congratulations, ADE A-rated school, Mountain Ridge High School. Our next school tonight is Mountain Shadows Elementary School. The Mountain Shadows administrative team had this to say. This A rating reflects the power of our collective work as a school community. Our staff came together with a clear focus on strengthening Tier 1 instruction, increasing instructional impact, and intentionally building a culture of belonging and trust. Through shared responsibility and a strong collective efficacy, we partnered with our students to achieve meaningful growth and outstanding results. These outcomes matter deeply to us because they have been earned together by committed educators and resilient learners side by side. Congratulations to ADE A-rated school, Mountain Shadows Elementary School. The next DVUSD school to be honored tonight with their A rating from ADE is Norterra Canyon School. Principal Teresa Milks had this to say about their A rating. Norterra Canyon is proud to be an A-rated school, a distinction that reflects the heart of our community and the strength of our pirate way. Guided by our mission statement, every student, every day, we hold ourselves to high expectations through achievement, rigor, reflection, and growth, ensuring high levels of learning for all. This recognition belongs to our incredible teachers who inspire excellence, our students who rise to challenges with determination, and our families who partner with us every step of the way. Together, we are a community committed to learning, growth, and success, and this A rating is celebrating what's possible when we work together for our kids. Congratulations, ADE A-rated school, Norterra Canyon School. Rattling with excitement for their success is our next school, Paseo Hills School. Proud Principal Jamie Hood had this to say about earning their A rating. Paseo Hills School is proud to celebrate an incredible milestone, earning an A letter grade from the Arizona Department of Education. This recognition reflects the daily commitment of our students, staff, and families who show up with heart, determination, and a belief that every child can grow. This achievement is more than a score, it's a story of growth. It represents students pushing themselves, teachers and staff collaborating with purpose, and families standing alongside us as true partners in their learning. At Paseo Hills, we know progress doesn't always come in huge leaps. It's built through consistent effort and small successes that add up over time, and we celebrate those wins because they matter. Most importantly, this A reflects a mindset we live by at Paseo Hills. We believe in all kids. When challenges arise, we move forward with determination, we adapt, lift each other up, and remain focused on what students deserve. A school built on high expectations, strong relationships, and unwavering support. Today, we celebrate this accomplishment together as one community. We are Paseo. Congratulations, ADE A-rated school, Paseo Hills School.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Guys, everyone's got to go this way. This way, this way.
Flying high with another A rating is Sandra Day O'Connor High School. Proud leader of the O'Connor Eagles, Principal Dr. Lynn Miller had this reflection on their campus earning an A rating by ADE. It is an honor and a privilege to lead and serve such a great campus, community, staff, and students. I am beyond blessed and just want to say that all the praise, thanks, and kudos go to our kiddos, staff, and parents. They make OHS the best high school in the West. Thank you, Eagle Nation, for always soaring to the top. You are the best. Continue to learn, lead, and contribute. Congratulations to ADE A-rated school, Sandra Day O'Connor High School. Next up, the Vipers of Sierra Verde STEAM Academy. Principal Kim Lanise had this to say upon earning the coveted A rating at their school. It's an honor to lead forward with incredible staff, students, and community at Sierra Verde. We have a legacy of excellence, and I am proud to continue achieving greatness together. But don't just take it from me. Here are some staff and student reflections upon receiving our A letter grade. Being recognized as an A school is a source of great pride. It reflects our commitment to students' success, mastery of standards, and creating a supportive, caring environments. That was from Mr. Lyons, Sierra Verde's 6th grade science teacher. Everyone in this school demonstrates peak daily, and I see it all around me. This school is so kind and caring. All the teachers here have so much experience, and they're all so happy to teach. When I walk through the gates of the school, I feel loved and accepted every day. Everyone's smiling here, and it makes my day. That was Emery, a 5th grade student. And last but not least, when we get an A rating, it feels like winning the Super Bowl. Another 5th grader from Sierra Verde. Congratulations to ADE A-rated school, Sierra Verde STEAM Academy.
kiddos, do not look at mom yet. Look right here. Look at mom.
No, what about the parents? Yeah, I love it.
Get a picture of all the moms.
Yeah, right? Yeah! Let's get a picture of
And dads.
dads.
Sorry.
Yeah,
And dads. And
grandmas.
Our final school tonight is Stetson Hills School. Principal Brittany Dyer Hurden had this reflection about the prestigious distinction for their school. Stetson Hills is proud to celebrate earning an A rating from the Arizona Department of Education, a distinction that reflects the dedication, talent, and heart of our entire school community. This achievement highlights the hard work of our students, the expertise and commitment of our teachers and staff, and the strong partnership we share with all of our families. An A rating represents not only high academic performance, but also growth, excellence, and positive school climate. Values we intentionally cultivate every day through our focus on strong instruction and supportive, student-centered culture. We are grateful for the continued support of our community, and we are proud to represent Deer Valley Unified School District as a school where students truly thrive. Congratulations, ADE A-rated school, Stetson Hills School.
I do.
Next tonight, we move to a group of students whose vocabulary seems to grow exponentially each time they step into the competition for the Vocabulary Bowl. Sierra Verde STEAM Academy won first place in Arizona for the Fall Vocabulary Bowl again. This is now the Vipers' fourth consecutive bowl victory. The Fall Vocab Bowl ran from October 1st to November 30th, with over 4 million students from 46,900 schools competing this season. New for this Vocabulary Bowl was the expansion for competition at the international level, which means that Sierra Verde students outperformed not only local and not only national competition, but students in classrooms that span the globe. Over the duration of the competition, Miss Jen Orr's fifth grade students answered 202,750 vocabulary-related questions, which translated to 14,985 words mastered. Combined, the class spent over 1,400 hours working to reach first place at the state level in Arizona and 15th place in the entire nation, with the assist from Sierra Verde's 6th and 8th grade students. The top fifth graders were George Edler with 538 words mastered, Prisha Shino Joseph with 483 words mastered. Oliver Barclay Comstock with 456 words. Jackson Dennis clocking 446 words. and Iris Wu with 413 words this season. Congratulations to the Vocabulary.com Fall 2025 Vocabulary Bowl State Champions for the state of Arizona, Sierra Verde STEAM Academy.
Yeah, give our songs right here. Yeah. Ready, show number one. Feels good to be number one. Yeah. Right.
While she couldn't be here tonight, we do have one final award of the evening. For the fourth consecutive year, a DVUSD student has earned a Flynn Scholar semifinalist status. The merit-based award is valued at more than $135,000 and includes funding for an international study abroad program, mentorship, and membership in a community of high-achieving peers statewide. This year, Sandra Day O'Connor High School senior Elizabeth Young is one of 79 semifinalists vying for the scholarship. Elizabeth emerged from a competitive pool of 1,150 applicants, which were submitted in October. The 79 finalists reside in 12 of Arizona's 15 counties and attend 63 high schools, including a mix of traditional, public, charter, and private schools. One of Sandra Day O'Connor High School's counselors, Meta Kitna, had this to say about Elizabeth's impact on her campus, as well as her track record for accomplishments. We are proud to recognize Elizabeth Young, who has been named a Flynn Scholar semifinalist, one of Arizona's most prestigious academic honors, and the only one of our district for 2026. Elizabeth is one of our students ranked first in her class, a National Merit semifinalist this year, and an exceptional leader at the state and national level. She currently serves on the FBLA National President's Executive Council and is a two-time FBLA state officer, in addition to being the Director of Professional Development for the Institute of Youth Policy. She is also the founder of In the Ship, a college and internship resource platform created to support students nationwide. Beyond her leadership, Elizabeth is a bilingual book author, owner of a private tutoring business, a two-time speech and debate captain, a 3-year member of the school swim team, a teen advisory board member at the Arizona Science Center. She has continued to study piano for 11 years and is also fluent in Chinese. If that's not enough, she's bright, innovative, and deeply committed to serving others. Elizabeth plans to pursue international business or economics with a minor in Chinese language. We celebrate her remarkable achievements and congratulate her on this well-deserved recognition as a Flynn Scholar semifinalist. Let's all give one round of applause to our 2026 Flynn Scholar semifinalist, Elizabeth Young. And that concludes tonight's award ceremony. The governing board meeting will begin in a few moments.
I'll be speaking.
Josh, can you call Stephanie?
While we wait to get started for everybody at home, we are having some video difficulties. The camera is stuck looking at our podium that is set up for the awards. The audio will work. The presentations should show up on the feed. And if at some point in time during the night we're able to remedy the video, that will catch up with us. Otherwise, we do apologize for the inconvenience. I'd like to call tonight's meeting of the regularly scheduled meeting of the Deer Valley Governing Board to order at 7:03. Let the roll call show that all members are present, save Ms. Simicek, who's attending telephonically. Dr. Zerbach, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence?
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Should we come around the corner?
Okay.
Well, you have enough.
I guess I lied. Ms. Simicek is not on the phone. She's walking in the door any moment now, so she'll join us in a second.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. First up on tonight's agenda is a matter of somewhat old business. For those of you that may have been listening in a few months ago, there was an open meeting law complaint filed against the board or the district. And the Attorney General came back citing that there was indeed an open meeting law violation, but cited in the Attorney General's opinion it was a violation on the board's part. So their recommendation was to receive additional open meeting law training. We've reached out to Ms. Smock Esquire, who has been an attorney at law for many, many years, and we're going to rely heavily on her expertise and experience in this field to try to guide us along the way so that we don't keep making similar mistakes. So we appreciate you joining us tonight. We'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't know that it's been a really, really long time that I've been practicing law. Actually, I've retired. I retired from the Attorney General's office after having spent 30 years there. And one of the things I always do when I make an open meeting law presentation is let you know why you should listen to what I have to tell you. In my 30 years in the AG's office, I spent 27 of them on the open meeting law enforcement team. For 7 years, I represented agencies that had to comply with the open meeting law, so I was giving them advice. And for 12 years, I was on the Peoria School Board, so I had to do what you're doing, and I had to make sure that I was following the law as a board member, and it's a different sort of situation. But having said that, I guess I've had a seat all around the table. And what I'm going to talk to you about tonight is just basic stuff, and with some focus on executive session. When the presentation is over, after your meeting, whatever, I have also provided Ms. Taylor with a presentation that I made, put together some time ago on dealing with executive sessions for personnel matters, so you can even have more information, plus some resources that you can rely on. So first of all, let's just talk about open meeting law basics. You know that you have to have notice and agenda provided no less than 24 hours in advance of a meeting, and you have to let the public know where those meeting notices will be posted. The agenda can't be revised after that time, but you can change the order of the items to be discussed at the meeting. And I've said in parentheses, so long as there are not designated times listed on the agenda. There have been some agencies that have tried to move their meetings along by saying, this starts at 7 and this happens at 7:10 and that sort of thing. And then you can't really do that because people who are looking at certain agenda items would think that they don't have to be there till 8 o'clock. Also, the notice and agenda requirements apply to board-created advisory and board-created subcommittees as well. I'm giving you statutory sections, but you also need to be aware, if you're not already, of an AG opinion that was issued and then sort of revamped that had to do with advisory committees and subcommittees, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but mostly keeping in mind that you can have a superintendent talk to board members one at a time or maybe two, but you need to be careful of what are called 2-by-2-by-1 meetings because of the concern that there's discussion of what has been said by other board members when they receive the same information. So it's just a kudo. And let me also say, just keep in mind that the open meeting law is very specific in its recitation of the fact that the legislature wants public meetings to be open, and if there's any question, you need to resolve it in favor of openness, not of an executive session, for example. So your agendas have to say the specific matters that are going to be discussed, considered, or decided at a meeting. You can only talk about those things that are on that agenda, and as the statute says, other matters related thereto. So then the question is, how far can you go off from the specific of a topic that's listed on the agenda? And the example I use is an agenda item considering changing attendance boundaries cannot result in the vote to close a school. Now, that may sound like it's pretty obvious, but that in fact happened. That was a complaint that was filed with the Attorney General's office. You can imagine a parent who lives across the street from the school who saw that there were going to be attendance boundary changes would not have assumed that that school would be closed. So, and again, other matters related thereto, you're going to run into what lawyers will always say to you, it depends. It depends on the facts of the situation. Next is, what is a meeting? And a meeting is a gathering in person or through technological devices of a quorum of the members of a board, at which time you discuss, propose, or take legal action. Now, the most important thing there is discuss, because you don't have to make a decision then, and you can still have a meeting if you have a quorum of board members. It also includes, and this is also in an AG opinion, a one-way electronic communication by one member of a board that proposes legal action to the rest. So the problem that you run into here with the gathering through in person or through technological devices is you can also have what's called a hub and spoke, where you have two people talk about an item, and then one person goes to a third and says, hey, I just talked to Joe and Jim about this, and they're on board, what do you think? That's a violation of the law, even though you weren't all together at the same time. And you really have to watch out for exchange of electronic communications as well. And the other thing that I will say to you is that when I first started doing open meeting law training many, many years ago, I referred to myself as an open meeting law lawyer, not a public records lawyer. But now with technology, they're pretty closely aligned. So it's kind of hard to say that, you know, if there's a meeting that goes on through a text message, not only is it a violation of the open meeting law, but those text messages become public records. You also have to conspicuously post a statement where your notices are going to be posted, and the law says, and give additional public notice as is reasonable and practical as to all meetings. Again, you're going to look at a factual situation, but you know, if you're looking at something that relates to a particular elementary school or a particular high school, then it would make sense for your notice to be included with that school as well. Executive session notices have to say the specific provision that authorizes an executive session. There are a lot. The notice of executive session has to be provided to the public and to the members of the public body. Those are specifically set forth because, in fact, there were situations where there would be a proposal to have an executive session, and if there was a division in the board, maybe one of the board members wasn't given the information about the meeting. You can't do that. So here are potential trouble spots, and this will change as technology changes. Cell phones during a meeting, typing on a laptop or an iPad, or passing notes during a meeting. Again, those may also create public records. And this is not something that, you know, somebody's just thinking might be a problem. I actually am aware of a case that occurred long before we had cell phones. And it had to do with a licensing board that revoked a license for a particular person. And in the appeal that was taken to the Court of Appeals, one of the issues was raised was that they were passing notes during their deliberations, and they were questioning whether there was some decision-making being made outside of the public. Well, what was going on was a note passing asking where people wanted to go to lunch. But what happened was the taking away of the license was upheld, but that board was required to pay the attorney's fees for that appellate decision. So you really have to pay attention to the appearance of impropriety. In addition, you need to look at social media postings, comments or proposals concerning business of the public body. This is where it gets really dicey, and I think some of you may have been to School Board Association Law Conference or some of their presentations that have talked about balancing the First Amendment with these kinds of things. But the bottom line is, if you're making a proposal on a social media site and you know that it's focused to members of your board, you're going to have a problem. It doesn't mean that you can't go on social media and say, I don't like the decision that was made at the meeting last night. But you do need to just be aware that, again, the appearance of impropriety could be as bad or worse than an actual violation, because you're still going to have to defend yourselves against it. So executive sessions. I have said this repeatedly. They are private. They are not secret. The public has to know that you're going to have an executive session, why you're going to have it, and it must be included on the public notice and agenda that there will be an executive session. It can be held for more than one reason at the same meeting, but you need to make sure that you post each individual item. So you might have a real estate deal and need legal advice, and they need to be posted with those separate provisions that allow that executive session to take place. The motion to go into executive session has to include those specific statutory reasons for every single one of them, no matter how many there are. You have to cite them separately. I've listed the 9 reasons. Most common ones are personnel matters and legal advice, confidential records, sometimes made confidential by statute, federal regulation, whatever it might be, HIPAA, anything that has to do with contract negotiations, pending or contemplated litigation or settlement discussions, negotiations with employee organizations, international or interstate negotiations. That was included to allow entities that are dealing with being on reservation property or whatever. There might be some specific reason why a particular indigenous group would not want to have a discussion done in a regular meeting. Purchase, sale, or lease of real property. These are the newer ones, have to do with school safety operations plans and programs. Those have been added, obviously, for lots of different reasons, and also discussions related to security plans and procedures. And there's some reference to critical infrastructure information and information technology, and those are defined separately, but they are also considered confidential under the public records law on their own. Then the other reason that you can go into executive session, as you know, is for student discipline matters. It's governed by Title 15, but you still have to list on your regular meeting notice if you're going to have a discussion of a student suspension matter. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay. The agenda item has to discuss what's going to be in session, but only a general description of that item. It doesn't have to include any information that would defeat the purpose of the executive session, which makes sense. If you're talking about purchasing real estate, you don't want to have to say in public that you've authorized a purchase price between $20,000 and $25,000 if you're trying to get the best deal. That's not going to happen. Same thing with attorney-client privilege and personnel matters, compromising legitimate privacy interests of a public officer. You may have a situation where you're not sure whether there should be a personnel action taken, and you want to be able to have that discussion in executive session without embarrassing the person who's the subject of the discussion unnecessarily. This is probably the most important thing you have to remember. At the beginning of every executive session, you have to advise everyone there, every single time you have an executive session, that matters discussed in executive session are confidential. The law provides that you shall instruct those persons who are present of the confidentiality requirements of the article. And the other thing to keep in mind is that that confidentiality requirement does not go away. It doesn't go away even after the decision has been made in a public meeting. What is said in executive session stays in executive session and cannot be discussed anywhere else. Now, if an item is not on the executive session, you can't talk about it in executive session. You don't make any discussions, any decisions in executive session. But you may instruct, and these are very specifically set forth in the statute, you can instruct your representative or attorney regarding contracts, litigation, settlement negotiations, negotiations with employee groups, negotiations concerning real property. Again, it's obvious. You don't want to let the information out if it compromises your ability to do your job in your role as board members. Again, there's no vote to adjourn an executive session either, since voting is not permitted. But when you come back, your board president should announce that the public body is back in open session. I think that's even more important now that you have streaming. A lot of these things were true even before we had that technology. So, once you're back in public session, you can move to instruct your attorneys or your representatives by simply saying, I move we instruct our attorney according to the discussions that we had in executive session. That's appropriate. It would not be appropriate to say what those instructions are. You also have to keep in mind that any legal action that might bind you has to be made by a vote in a public meeting. And there is a relatively new case involving the city of Flagstaff that lost a case in which they made a decision to authorize litigation, but they did it in executive session and never went out into a public session and took that vote. You have to have executive session minutes, but they have to be kept confidential, except from members present at the exec session, individuals who are discussed pursuant to the personnel exception, and then Auditor General, County Attorney, AG's office, that sort of thing, if there's an investigation. And it's not uncommon if you're in a court situation and there are executive session minutes to have a judge review the minutes in camera, as it were, and determine if they can be released or if parts of it can be released. That happens as well. Keep in mind, too, that, a lot of things that you talk about in executive session eventually will come out and be the subject of a public discussion. You still have to keep the discussion in executive session confidential. So I've listed some examples. In order for a real estate deal to be closed, you have to vote in public session. You're not going to do that before the deal is done, but once it's done, then everyone will know that you've taken these steps to close this real estate deal. The same is true with negotiations with employee organizations and in a personnel matter. The final vote has to take place in a public session. Okay, this is where it gets a little tricky. You go into executive session, you talk about real estate, you talk about personnel, you talk about negotiations, whatever it might be. Eventually, you're going to have to take a vote on that. But you have to be careful what you say in those meetings. And I put some examples up here. You can't say, I agree with my colleague because he told me in executive session that ABC. You can say, I agree with my colleague, or I agree with my colleague for the reasons she discussed in executive session. That's okay. And the same is true of a motion. You can't say, I can't vote for this motion because, as I said in executive session, and here are all my reasons. But you can say, I can't vote for this motion for the reasons that I stated in executive session. And, is this getting into the weeds? Yeah, it is, but it's the law. You don't really have a lot of choice. You got to be very careful about it. You're allowed to talk about your attitudes, your opinions, your reasoning when you're talking about your vote in the public session, but again, you're not making reference to statements that were made or the nature of the discussion that occurred in executive session. And keep in mind, too, that once a matter has been determined by a vote in a public session, the confidentiality requirements of the open meeting law apply. That is an absolute requirement forever. I used to say, don't even tell your dog what happened. Okay. I'm going to leave you with some, and then if you have questions, please ask, but things to think about when focusing on the nature of the confidentiality requirements of the open meeting law. It might be a good idea to have one person who's specifically designated as the person to remind everybody at every meeting of the requirement of confidentiality, so you don't have to worry about whether somebody's going to remember to do that or not. Another is prohibiting cell phones or other technologies at exec sessions. There have been a number of city councils that are doing exactly that. They go into executive session and the cell phones are in a box outside the door, so that there's no question that nobody could be listening in, nobody could be recording it and using it later on. And the other thing is, there are some people who don't think that there should be virtual attendance at an executive session because of your inability to control who might be listening in to the conversation on the other end of that. So, having said all that, I thank you for your time. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, I have given her information that you can look at as well.
I encourage the board to ask questions if they have them, but I do not want us to get into hypotheticals with Ms. Mock, and we're not here to litigate anything that may or may not have been perceived to be correct. We're just here to try to educate ourselves and be better at following the law. I'll start off real quick, which I don't usually do, but just so I don't forget. We've talked about you don't have to take a vote to adjourn executive session. Now, generally, this board has gone into executive session before our open meetings, and I know that we have the doors open before the executive session starts so that we're technically in open meeting, and then we call it into session. So since I usually lead that as the president, explain to me how then we go from, do I just adjourn the meeting when the business is over, just don't ask for a vote, and then we come out and start the regular meeting, or how would you suggest that that gets done? So
That's exactly right.
Okay.
I mean, are we done here?
Right, okay.
That's, you know, and I'm not
I was
gonna
assuming that when you were referring to that, and it might be helped with Mr. Carver as well, you were making a statement related to if we have an executive session in here versus another room. Is that a variable in the equation or no?
No, you still have to, I mean, executive session, it can happen in any room you might have. I mean, I know when I was on the Peoria board, we used to adjourn to a room that was adjacent to the main board room, but you can have an executive session and just clear this out and make sure there's nobody listening. It's a lot easier if you're in a smaller room. It's a lot easier to control who's in there and who isn't. And you know, the other thing is that I didn't really talk about that much is if you have, for example, a personnel matter and you have more than one person that you're talking to, they need to be in there one at a time. They don't all need to be in there at the same time. And the other thing is that person who's subject to a personnel matter has the right to ask that the meeting be held in public. And you don't have a choice. You have to do it then. That's their choice. Again, I'm going to speak to you from experience. We had a situation when I was on our board. There was a personnel matter. The gentleman who was being considered for some sort of, I don't even remember at this point, it was long enough ago, but he wanted it out in public, and we walked into the open meeting with a room full of teachers with black armbands on. They're perfectly allowed to do that if they want to have that discussion to be held in public. Most people who are subject to a personnel exception of the open meeting law do not want that to be done in public, but you know, if somebody feels like the world needs to hear what's going on, they have the right to do that. And having said that, you have to make sure they have enough time to make that decision. The other thing I will tell you is, and I think it's in the executive session paper that I wrote some time ago. If you have a personnel matter and you've notified that person that person has the right to have the meeting held in public, you need to recognize, number one, you don't have to let them be in there. That's your choice. Usually you want that person there because you're trying to get the information to help you decide what your decision is going to be. But, if they decide they don't want to be in there, if they decide they do want to be in there, they can have a lawyer with them, they can have a union representative with them, but there's nothing that says they need to have both. And those are the people who are also required to comply with the confidentiality requirements of the law. So,
Dr. Pack?
I thought I was clear, but now I'm a little unclear, so I'm going to ask. If we have an executive session scheduled for a different day than our regular board meeting, do we still need to start in here in an open meeting to then go back to an executive meeting?
That's a great question. Most of the time I would say yes, but it is possible that you could have an item on an agenda, your meeting tonight, saying, I move that we go into executive session to discuss negotiations next Thursday. That's okay, but you still have to post your notice. So yes, you have to go, even if it's just you and you don't expect anybody else there, you still have to have the vote to go into executive session has to be in a public session.
So then the next Thursday, do we need to start in here, even though there's nothing on the agenda other than
Technically
executive
not.
session, start in here and then go?
Technically not, but I'm going to tell you, you really need to talk to your lawyer about whether that's something you want to do. Let me back up. Having been on the open meeting law enforcement team for as long as I was, I am always going to be as far away from a violation of the law as possible. You can imagine when I was on the school board, there was nothing worse than me being concerned that there would be a violation of the law on my own board. I don't want to do that. So I would say, in the interest of just making sure that there isn't ever any question, if you were just going to have an executive session, I would post that as a meeting notice. The public agenda item is going into executive session and then coming out and doing whatever it is you're going to do. That's the other thing about it, too, is that you may decide you're going to have to instruct someone or do something as a result of the executive session. You might want to do that. So I would just say from my standpoint, it's safer, but I'm always going to be as far away from that line as possible, and that's not always the advice that other lawyers will give. It's just because of my experience. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to try to clarify with Dr. Pack. So currently our meetings start in our executive conference room back here, and the doors are open before we vote to go into executive session. The thought process, I believe, has always been that gives the community access for the open meeting part to call the executive session, and I know that Dr. Pack it sounds like she's focused on that we need to start in here. I just want to make sure that as long as the community has access to where we call the meeting to order,
Right.
That's the important part. So as long as the doors are open, and I know there's some concern as to whether or not there's access, but we can focus on that. But as long as the community has the ability to go from the outside to where the meeting's being held for the calling of the executive session and the vote, then it's meeting the requirement?
As long as you are having the meeting in a public session and the public knows where you are. So if you did that, you could say that you could post a notice that there's going to be an executive session, and it will, if you're going to start, if it's part of a regular meeting like this, it makes more sense for you to be out here.
Right.
I mean, again, I'm going to be more cautious.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's the only thing that's being discussed as an executive session item, as long as the notice makes it clear where you're going to be when you make that public vote, you're okay. I mean, you could stand out in the lobby and make a motion to go into executive session and then go into another room. It doesn't matter where you are, it's just that the public has to know, has to see an agenda item that shows a public meeting notice, and one of the items is to go into executive session with a motion and a vote and a clear, specific description of what it is that you're discussing in executive session, what topic is the one that is permitted by the law.
Understood. Thank you, Ms. Mock.
I'm not sure if that helped or not.
Follow up?
Yes, follow up. I guess what I'm getting hung up on is if the door's open, that's great, but if the public can't walk in through the outside to get to where the door is open because there's other doors.
We actually do that on purpose for that very reason. We have someone that watches the door, make sure it's unlocked, and then they lock it after the executive session is started, for that very reason. I think maybe what I would be
Oh, I
asking,
see.
if you had a executive session at O'Connor High School, you wouldn't have to come here, make a motion, drive over to O'Connor. So
No.
it's the same logic.
No, you
have to
would-
stay where you're going to do it.
Exactly.
Have the doors open.
Exactly.
People can look and see that it actually is happening.
Exactly.
It's
You-
closed, and then it's opened again. So that's the logic where we're going here. It's just the concept of accessibility, and we do that.
Well, they just
on
need to
purpose.
know
Yeah.
that you're in executive session and how long you're in there and that you came
But
out.
we can't lock the doors and say, these doors are open, but if the public can't have access.
Can't do that.
Right.
That would not work. That would not work. And you know, you got to think about the streaming business. You've got to have that vote in a public setting. But to your example, your meeting notice could say, the board is meeting at Sandra Day O'Connor High School, and the only item on the agenda is an executive session to discuss real estate matters. And and then the next item is the executive session, and you vote on that, and you go into executive session, and you come out, and then, depending on the item, you may or may not take some action when you're in the public setting again.
Thank you, Ms. Mock. Ms. Fisher, did you have something?
Prior to 2019, we always started here and then went back. It's just same thing, always trying to make sure we were fully transparent. We also had the front doors unlocked so that people could come in. Multiple times I've come and the doors are locked and the public can't get past those doors to get to this area. Even if, benefit of the doubt, they have someone who is assigned to watch the door and let anybody in who wants to come in. If that person walks away to go to the bathroom, to blow their nose, to move a chair, to do something else, and the public comes up, that door's locked, they cannot get to the conference room where the open door is. Violation, not violation?
Well, again.
Do
I've got-
they don't have access?
I understand what you're saying. If you don't have access, you have a problem for that public part of the meeting.
Okay.
But that's, again, this is the lawyers, it depends, because it's going to be so driven by the facts of that particular situation.
So it's just important that the community is able to get in.
It's important
For
for
the-
the
for the
public to be
open
able to
meeting.
hear you speak to the motion to go into executive session for whatever reasons they are. And then
Okay.
for you to come out if in fact you have something else you're going to do.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
Are we good with that topic? Can I move on to a different question, or?
No, if you've got your answer the way, if that satisfied your question?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
kind of what I've been saying, is that we have to have it open. You spoke about the executive session, how personnel is allowed the minutes.
I'm sorry, it's allowed what?
Personnel is
Yeah.
allowed the minutes of an executive session related to them.
Right.
Okay. That came from an Attorney General's opinion, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, where a new board member wanted the minutes of a executive session, or they weren't there for there was some reason. And the Attorney General opined that a board member could have those minutes so that they could be aware of the executive session, because it was part of their duties. And at the time, they said, he also opined that an employee has a right because they're being discussed, just as they had the right to have it in a public meeting. Does that same right extend to a non-employed candidate?
No.
So you don't work for me, you don't work for us. You've never worked for us. but you applied for a job, and we're going to discuss you in an executive session. Do you have a right to the minutes as a non-employed candidate?
You know, I'm gonna have to, you're gonna have to talk to your own lawyer about that, because that is really, really specific. If it's a candidate, that may not be an executive session item anyway, because they're not an employee. Okay?
So to discuss the hiring of the individual,
Let me read the,
because that's good to
language.
know if that's not even an executive session.
hang on.
It would be a personnel matter, but they wouldn't be a current employee.
Let me read the, I don't have it in here. The specific, yes, I do. The specific language is, I mean, you have to be very careful, because like you can't talk about the superintendent search candidate people, I mean, the search firms, you can't, those are not, they have to be employees. Let me get my notes here from my, I don't want to read it incorrectly.
While Ms. Mock's doing that, that'll be the only hypothetical we're going to discuss tonight, as we started when we did this. We don't want to bombard her with hypotheticals. We're going to ask
Well, I'm
questions
not-
relevant to process and procedure.
Yeah, I'm not in a
That's not
position to be
hypothetical.
giving you advice
We need to
anyway.
know if they're, because if we have to interview somebody or have a,
I think the answer is no. That was a pretty easy
Here-
one. It'd be same concept as allowing your spouse to come in or not. They're not an employee. They don't have a right.
Right.
Same
The-
concept.
The the personnel exception is for employment, assignment, appointment, blah, 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 of a public officer, appointee, or employee. Okay? So that person is none of those yet.
okay, so then that is inappropriate for them to have meeting minutes.
Well, again, you need, you know, with a
Okay.
specific case, you need to talk to your lawyer, and I'm not acting as your lawyer in this particular matter. I'm just saying,
just-
the law is very specific, but, yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, the difficulty comes with people who don't take seriously the concept of confidentiality, particularly if they're not board members, and it's kind of their first time involved in something like this, and they don't really know what they can and cannot say, but the law's pretty clear.
Okay, so
And let me
employees who
say-
may be there, they are still bound by the same confidentiality.
Who are you talking about now?
Non-board members, whoever, non-board members in that.
They are bound by that confidentiality if they're in the executive session, but I
So
will
they
tell you.
cannot share anything with their spouse, kids?
No, no, absolutely not. And also, there is a court case, and I will tell you that I have not checked on it recently to see if it's still good, but I think it is. It's called Picture Rocks, and it allows board members to see executive session minutes, even if they weren't in that executive session.
It's an attorney general opinion, is that, it's an
No,
actual
it's-
case now?
No, it's an older case.
An older
If it
case.
was referenced in an AG opinion, the case is old. It's called Picture Rocks, and I can't remember the name of the district that it was. It's an older case.
I'll take a look.
But again, that's a question that you should
I'll take a look.
run by your attorney who's,
Okay, and then the final question is, not discussing what was said in an executive session. Okay, you're in an executive session, you don't say what was said in it, but someone else says something, and you say, man, my emotion, this is how I felt. This is my emotion. You're not sharing anything that was in the executive session, just saying how you felt in the executive session. Does it go to
well,
emotions?
you know, again, I'm going to be on this, as far away from going over that line as possible, and say, you know, if someone who wasn't in an executive session talks about what happened, or somebody else does, you shut them down. I mean, you're not supposed to talk about anything in public that was said in an executive session because of the absolute requirement of confidentiality. You can't. You can't. You're limited, and same with those exec session minutes. I mean, They should be kept separate from regular session minutes. There have been times when, at least one case I can think of, and maybe two, where a school district was asked to produce public records, and the person who was producing it didn't realize that there was a difference between executive session minutes and regular session minutes, and they were all kind of in the same file cabinet. You can't do that. They should be kept completely separate. A lot of districts don't even have, you may approve those exec session minutes, but you don't even really look at them. You let, whoever's your clerk of your board or whatever sign off on them, and once the board has gone through the process of just routinely approving executive session minutes. But you got to be very careful about what you do with those things, and they certainly should not be sent via text or anything else like that, email or anything else in preparation for a board meeting. These are the kinds of things that technology has caused more difficulty with than there had been before, because that wouldn't have been a problem 30 years ago, but it is now. If you're getting all your information on an email, you got to make sure, it really, executive session minutes really should not be sent via email. They should be viewed maybe before the meeting starts. You have a chance to look at them if that's what you need to do. But
Thank you, Ms. Mock. Anything from Ms. Simchak or Mr. Botfeld? Crystal. Ms. Smock, I want to thank you so much for spending time
quite
with us this
welcome.
evening
Thank
and
you.
helping us out. Appreciate you, and anytime you want to come back, please feel free. You miss us, but no thanks?
Well,
Okay.
I have to answer that honestly. I would have normally said no, but having had the opportunity to see what was going on with your recognitions tonight, I remembered why I enjoyed it so much. Yeah,
A beautiful evening. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
you
Ms.
bet.
Smock. I appreciate you.
you bet.
The next item on the agenda is item 4A. Dr. Pack?
I move that the governing board approve revision to the governing board meeting dates for regular scheduled meetings in school year 2025, 2026.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Bodfeld, thank you. Dr. Finch, anything to add?
The switching of the April date from the 7th to the 14th or 14th to the 7th, that was because I will be out of town. We do have 5 Tuesdays in the month before, so we'll still have a normal break. Normal 2-week break. So that was the reason for the change.
Any questions for Dr. Finch about the proposed change? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Passes 4-1, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Next item on the agenda, item 4B. Dr. Pack?
I move that the governing board approve meeting dates for regular scheduled governing board meetings in school year 2026, 2027 as recommended.
Second.
Dr. Finch?
Those are the ones we discussed at the last board meeting.
Any changes or updates?
No changes. No changes.
Any questions for Dr. Finch about 26, 27? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Passes 4-1, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Next item on the agenda, item 5. Dr. Pack?
I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items 5A through 5O.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Oh, here it is, sorry. It's my technical issue, sorry. Okay, oops. Okay, you see it?
Thank you.
There we go.
All those in favor? I didn't hear you say.
You did. You missing a vote?
Mrs. Fisher.
Did you vote, Ms. Fisher?
She's nay.
I don't vote on consent. It has too much hidden.
Abstain.
I'm not abstaining. I'm just not voting. As
Which
if
is
I were not
abstain?
here. It is not the same.
Technically, if you're in the room, you'd have to cast one of the three. So if you'd like to do that in the future, I'll ask you to step out for those votes. Okay, next item on the agenda. Are we good?
Passes 401. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Sorry about that. Item 6A, Dr. Pack.
I move that the governing board approve the proclamation declaring February Career and Technical Education Month in Deer Valley Unified School District.
Second.
Thank you. Read the proclamation. Deer Valley Unified School District Governing Board Proclamation, whereas February 1st to 28th of 2026 is designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education of Arizona and the National Association for Career Technical Education, highlighting the transformative impact of career and technical education on individuals and communities. And whereas career and technical education equips students with essential technical and professional skills through practical, meaningful applications of core subjects like reading, writing, and mathematics, fostering academic success, leadership, and community engagement. And whereas the collaboration between career and technical educators, business, and industry drives local and national economic growth by preparing students for in-demand careers and strengthening Arizona's workforce. And whereas career and technical education provides lifelong learning opportunities, enabling individuals to adapt to evolving workforce needs, achieve career satisfaction, and secure economic independence. And whereas the leadership opportunities offered by career and technical education student organizations such as DECA, FBLA, FCCLA, HOSA, and Skills USA develop future leaders and innovators essential to Arizona's continued success. Now, therefore, I, Paul Carver, Governing Board President of Deer Valley Unified School District, do hereby proclaim February 1st to 28th, 2026 as Career and Technical Education Month. Ms. Juliet, do you have something for us?
President Carver, members of the board, and Dr. Finch, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for your continued support of our CTE programs. We are seeing strong student achievement across our campuses, with students earning those industry-based certifications, engaging in hands-on learning, and building real-world skills that prepare them for college and careers. It is exciting to see the impact of these programs are having, and we truly appreciate your support.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Next item on the agenda, item 6B. Dr. Pack.
I move that the governing board approve all employee out-of-state travel for professional development per governing board policy GCCE.
Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Bodfield. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Item 6C, Dr. Pack.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to pre-approve the addenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Hold on just a second. I'm looking at the funding source. But it's not cooperating. Nay.
That's a nay. Okay. Passes 4-1.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Item 6D, Dr. Pack.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the fiscal year 2025-2026 district performance pay percentage for classified, administrative, and exempt employee groups at 2%.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Simchek. Ms. Mock.
President Carver, members of the board, Dr. Finch, and guests, this is the annual approval for the percentage that would be paid to classified, administrative, and exempt staff members who do not qualify for Classroom Site Fund for performance pay. This process has been going on in Deer Valley for over 2 decades, and it's only been in the last probably decade that we started bringing the percentage to the board for approval to make sure that we have our proper authority before paying employees. Employees work with their supervisor to set a individual professional plan goal at the beginning of the school year, and when that is achieved, along with some other criteria, the supervisor can authorize the individual for that payment that comes in June at the same time that the teachers receive their performance pay as well. We do use our cash funds for this, and this year we are proposing using our MIPS, or our Medicaid and Public School funds. It's the same fund that we used last year. Typically, we do bring this for approval in December. It has been November, December in the past. We were a little late this year. But moving forward, we plan to bring this for approval along with the budget in June. Since we are a little over halfway through the school year, employees are already expecting the 2%, yet we have not yet received the approval. So I will take any questions and appreciate your work on getting this authorized for us.
Any questions for Ms. Mock on this topic?
I just thought of one.
Dr. Peck?
How is the 2% derived? Why not 3%? What's 2%?
My tenure in Deer Valley started right around 20 years ago, and this has been in place for more than 20 years. So I would probably have to go back to meeting minutes from when it was initiated. Or in my spare time outside of this board meeting, I could check with Mr. Migliorino, who probably is, his tenure started right before mine as well. So I don't know if it started before him or with him, but we could answer that outside of today, but it's historically been at the 2%.
Thank you.
I believe it's statute. It might be. 2% is the max I think you can do. We can check on the statute.
Any further questions or concerns on this topic for Ms. Mock? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
It won't let me.
Ms. Mock, just for our curiosity, if you could include that in the next Friday update where we derive that.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
It passes 5-0, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Next up on the agenda, preview items. Looks like it's the
Yum.
for A, B, and C.
A, B, and C. Again, these are a reminder the ASBA has a new attorney, and so they're consolidating different board policies. The current one we're looking at is BHC, which is Board Communications. They're combining 854 and 855 advisories. During the ASB recent B policy adjustments, they're recommending that we merge those two, BHC and BHD. One is with communication with staff members, the other is with public. And then they added some subheadings for clarity, but other than that, it's mainly a merge.
Any questions for Dr. Finch concerning this first policy?
The second one is policy BIBA. This is board member development opportunities, conferences, conventions, and workshops. This is advisory again, 857 and 858. During their recent consolidation, again, they're recommending that we merge these two, BIB, which is developmental opportunities, with BIBA, which is conferences, conventions, and workshops. They've added some subheadings as well, adding development opportunities, conferences, conventions, and workshops in its own section. So a little more clarity. Again, we're going with their recommendation. We're recommending their recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Finch. Any questions for Dr. Finch on this policy? Dr. Pack?
Is this policy word for word of their recommendation?
I believe so. ASBA. Yep.
Thank you.
Policy BIE, that's the insurance liability policy. This comes from Policy Advisory 859 in the recent Policy B review that we've done. Policy language includes minimal revisions, but the personal liability portion was relocated to the end of the policy and under its own subheading, and the wording regarding participation in group insurance plans was updated to align with ARS 15-387. So this is another ASBA recommendation.
Any questions for Dr. Finch on this policy, BIE?
And a reminder too, if there are any questions and you come across in the next 2 weeks, let me know and we can have our attorney investigate.
Thank you, sir. Looks like Ms. Moffett, you're up for 7D as in Delta.
Yep. The last policy that we're bringing to you, President Carver, governing board members, is policy GCCA. Currently, Deer Valley does not own this policy. It has been in existence for a period of time. I'm not exactly sure how long, but relatively recent. And this went into place under ASBA. After Prop 206 was passed, and we had specific and clear guidelines around sick leave and how we were to allocate sick leave. So you'll see that the entire policy is red because it is brand new to us. The other thing that I do need to mention is remember the copyrighted issue. If we bring ASBA's policy on exactly as they suggest, then it becomes a copyrighted policy. This is what they suggest. However, each district is so unique with how they allocate leave that it becomes unique to us. And so it is not a full adoption of what they are recommending. So this policy was crafted by us with much of their recommendation. If you've had a chance to look through it already, when we provided it in the Friday update, you'll see the majority of what is in this policy does come directly out of statute. The rest of what we do, and that's mostly under general leave and not sick leave, the board authorizes us to do when you approve the certified manual and the classified manual. So that's how we allocate our general leave. So you'll see less information in this policy regarding general leave. The wording that you see also has been reviewed by our attorneys, and they support this policy as it reads in front of you today. So I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Ms. Moffett concerning this policy? Thank you, Ms. Moffett. We appreciate your time this evening. Next up on the agenda is call to the public. Dr. Pack, do we have speakers tonight?
We have one speaker. If I'll try my best. Kay Larley Albuquerque. Approach the microphone, please. And I will read this while you're heading that way. The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, and topic and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary, to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remarks disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Pack. Please state your name for the record before you begin, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Mic is-
1 second. I don't think your mic's on. Just give us 1 second.
Do I have to do something? No,
Nope,
there it
you're
goes.
good now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. As I said, my name is Carrie Lenny Albuquerque. I am a student at Barry Goldwater High School, and I'm also an advocate. What I'm speaking about tonight is not on the agenda, but it should be because it directly affects student safety and reflects the reality of our current political climate. Across our nation and our state, we are seeing heightened federal enforcement, specifically federal immigration activity that is creating fear and uncertainty in our communities. No district is immune to this. It does not matter that our district is predominantly white or that our Latino and African American populations combined do not make up the majority. What matters is that we have students in our districts that are of color. And they deserve to feel protected, supported, and seen by this board. As a student, I hear the conversations my peers are having every day. I hear students talk about being afraid for their well-being, afraid to come to school, afraid that no one understands what they are going through, or worse, that no one cares. I'm here to say that I understand, and because I understand, I'm standing in front of you to demand that the district do the bare minimum. Communicate clearly with students and parents that they have options. This can be as simple and as powerful as a mass email to families stating that if switching to online learning is the safer choice for them, the district will support them every single step of the way, both academically and personally. That their education will not be compromised for choosing safety, and that their district has their back. I'm asking you to have courage and to recognize that this is not the moment to stay silent. Silence right now sends a message, and it's not the one that the students need. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Albuquerque. Next item on the agenda is governing board reports. We're going to change it up a little bit this year. We'll start with Dr. Pack.
So I participated in the 4th annual District 5K and 1 mile run walk at Sandra Day O'Connor High School. My thighs are a little sore. It turned out to be great weather, and it was great to see everyone promoting good health. Thank you to DVA for providing the bagels. Yum. I also had the opportunity to visit the Invention Convention, Arizona, and check out the very clever and functional inventions. I really could have used that retainer locator that I saw last night back in the day. Earlier in the month, I walked the halls at Barry Goldwater High School to check out the student project exhibition. I ran into you, and I ran into you. It was great to see students being able to choose their passion or interest in the arts, with many projects involving music, dance, and art. Reviewing vouchers, of course, I've been doing that. I just wanted to note that besides the fact that I personally cannot sign anything unless I read it and ask questions to better understand, there's also the fact that when the vice president of the board applies a wet signature, there's a statement above the signature line that reads, quote, "I certify that my original signature below that this claim is just and correct, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera," 50 more words. And then also, all items are properly coded and not in excess of the budget. So that being said, in quotation marks, I am thankful to be able to learn more about our district through thorough voucher reviewing, and also happy to contribute to ensuring that correct codes are utilized, even if the machine would catch the miscoded item down the road. On other topic, anyone who knows me knows I love all things reading and teaching, about teaching children how to read. So I'd like to just give a shout out to that DVUSD literacy specialist who was also on the Zoom meeting with me this past weekend for the launch of the Arizona chapter of the Reading League. The Reading League offers many free resources and training and is a great community to join to learn ways to increase student literacy. Also, as a side note for everybody else, the ELA curriculum is still out in the lobby of the district office and will be there till February 12th for everyone to review. Just a quick shout out to all the K-3 students in our district for some amazing middle of the year growth on Dibbles testing, which I eyeballed. And an extra clap for the first graders at Sunset Ridge. You all are rocking it. Last but not least, thank you to the super duper before and after school care kiddos and Mrs. Marisek and Ms. Sarah at Canyon Springs for the very cool thank you book to recognize School Board Recognition Month. It's adorable. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Pack. Mr. Butfield.
This is another session of the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good. Let's start with the Invention Convention competition, which occurred here last night. It's a state qualifying event for students designed to foster problem identification, problem solving, entrepreneurial leadership, and creative skills. This was done in partnership with ASU and DVUSD gifted services students. The second good is the PLC, Professional Learning Communities. It's a collaborative training for teachers and principals. And on a weekly basis, teachers meet to set goals and teach each other lessons about their students. I'm sure they'd rather be spending their time grading papers or doing something else, but they do it, and it's important to do. And third good is public meetings. We learned about the potential boundaries Look, we've got 20,000 new housing units going into this district. School boundaries are going to change, and you can learn about potential attendance zone changes and share your thoughts and concerns tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at Barry Goldwater High School. And if you need facts on this, you can get them at dvusd.org/boundaries. The bad. Consider this. Arizona is the 49th state in terms of public school funding in the United States. Now, two bills in Washington can make it even worse. One is on federal vouchers, and the other is on charter school oversight. Now, let me make something clear. Vouchers are necessary. There are children that need and parents that need them. But the way they're being handled in this state is ridiculous and bad. Now, families receiving anywhere from $7,000 to $45,000 in Arizona vouchers will be able to double or even triple with this federal thing. The other one was charter schools, and it's taking away all oversight from charter schools. Ridiculous. Charter schools last an average of 3 years. You need to look at how charter schools are run. And the ugly. That's still me.
Thank you, Mr. Bodfeld. Ms. Simchek.
Yes, I wanted to second the Happy School Board Recognition Month. This is absolutely adorable. Thank you so much, Canyon Springs, for taking the time to create something so beautiful. It's so thoughtful, and I just love watching or looking at all the kids' handwriting and what they came up with. So thank you, Canyon Springs. Last Wednesday, I was able to attend the Union Park Beginning Band concert. Special shout out to Mr. Keever. The concert was not the students from the period of time of just beginning to get, and then here in January, was absolutely amazing. And he also took the time to have students come out and speak, like between the different songs, and share what they were doing and talk about each of the instruments. And it was so well done. So I wanted to thank Mr. Keevert for that. Also had an opportunity to go through the Dibbles reporting from the beginning of the year to middle, which was fantastic. And we gave a shout out to Sunset Ridge. I also wanted to give a shout out to the kindergartners at Village Meadows, who went from a 9% at the beginning of the year to a 62%. So that is amazing growth. I mean, our teachers are doing amazing things with our kiddos. So thank you, teachers, and great job, students. I do want to touch on the boundary changes as well, and I'm glad it got brought up. When I very first, I'll go back to when I was running for this seat, and I talked to my community, and you don't really know. You think you know, and then you serve, and you find out so much more. And one thing that I have learned, and when I began and I was knocking doors and having conversations with community members, they shared with me we were nervous of boundary changes in the future and that kind of a thing. And I said, well, we've got to keep our communities together. And by all means, I still completely agree with that statement. But what I have learned serving is that, my job sitting up here is to represent the entire district, so every single school, and to let everybody in our community know that it's not a single school that is being affected by the boundary changes. There are many other schools, and one of my responsibilities serving is that I need to take into consideration all of that. And while I know that it's painful for our schools to get divided and our communities to get divided up, we also can never predict what's going to happen. We can have a general idea of what's going to happen with growth, but we don't 100% know that. And we also don't know, things with bonds and overrides. If they don't pass a bond, then we can't build a new school or do what we need to do with the schools that we have. And so we need to make sure that we're utilizing those buildings the best way possible. So I just want to to share that. I don't attend the boundary meetings. I know they've become very heated. I hear a lot about them. But I do want to share that I continue to serve the entire district and not just a portion of it. And then I'm really glad that you shared the ledge, the federal HB1 bill, as well as what we're seeing at the state legislature. We continue to hear bills that do nothing for public education. It's extremely unfortunate. The ESA vouchers most definitely need to have some accountability and transparency applied, and now we're seeing at a federal level. In addition, we continue to hear bills that don't take into consideration charter schools, which is very that you mentioned that, because one of the questions we repeatedly ask at Ed Committee when a bill comes through is, what about charter schools, or what about those who receive the ESA vouchers? We heard a transparency bill today that would only affect public schools, and I think that when taxpayer dollars are being used to pay for all of these, that they all need to be accounted for, and that we need to make sure that all of the same rules apply to those. I think that's at minimum what we can do to respect taxpayer dollars. So I continue to support bills that are pro public education and for all, making sure that we have accountability and transparency for that. And I will continue to oppose bills that do nothing to help everyday Arizonans, and I will continue to oppose bills that single out certain groups of individuals, when I strongly believe that public education is a place for unity and for everyone, where everyone belongs. And I wanted to say thank you. I'm not sure if Carolina, thank you for sharing that tonight. I agree with you 100%, and I look forward to maybe even having a session where we can discuss what is going on in our communities here that continues to grow moment by moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simichek. Mrs. Fisher.
It has been a very busy day, I'm sure for more than just myself. Before I forget, just based on the Friday update that we received, there was a conversation about Dr. Pack had requested to see vouchers ahead of time, and there's been 1,000 reasons why they can't do that. We can't put it on there, and the benefit of her to be able to prepare her questions. And there was a note that School ERP Pro cannot do that. We don't need to pay a $60,000 employee to scan documents. Any employee that is doing the vouchers automatically goes into a report screen, and in that report screen, they simply click a button and it can email it to anyone. They can save it to a drive or whatever. So there's not a reason that can't be done. And since I know every time I say something, it's automatically told that it's false, I did send screenshots of School ERP Pro, the exact screens where they can simply click and send it, and it can be uploaded, saved, whatever. So it does have the capability to have that transparency. The desire is just not there. It is what it is. I'm sure everybody, well, let me start it a little bit different. I was going to start it different, but I do appreciate, and I love your name, I do appreciate the comment from Miss Albuquerque. That's awesome, because that's I went to school in high school in Albuquerque, but I think I'm probably the only one up here. I could be wrong. I don't know everybody's history, but I think I'm probably the only one up here that lived through a family member who had to deal with immigration and deal with deportation as a child, and having my Uncle Francisco sent back to Mexico and have to get his paperwork straightened out before he could come back was highly traumatizing, both to myself and my cousins. But our job here is to teach our kids. When I first started getting contacted earlier today about the Deer Valley High School kids walking out, I was a little bit mad at the kids. And then I thought, well, that's pretty stupid of you. It's not the kids' fault. The kids are here to learn from us. It's our job to be teaching these kids. And then I saw a lot of posting about, We're for the kids. Great, they walked out. We're against them. Stupid, they need to be in class. Back and forth, back and forth. And so I did give this a lot of thought. It is our job to teach these children. And a responsible thing to teach them would be that if you want to protest something, you have a right to free speech. Before school, after school, on the weekend with your parents, other alternatives. But in the state of Arizona, there are laws that say you have certain responsibilities as a student. In fact, if you are curious what those are, read Title 15, you'll find a lot, but specifically 15.841 will tell you the responsibilities of a student. And it is our job to make sure that those kids are in a class to learn, and it is our job to make sure that the kids are following the rules that have been set by our system. Whether it was this board or previous boards, we have rules. I was also then sent the administration's response. And then I was really mad, not at the kids, at the adults. To say that we are allowing them to express free rights to free speech and peaceful assembly, that does not apply in the middle of the school day, because they are not allowed to disrupt the learning environment, which it very much did disrupt the environment. I actually got texts from students. Teachers were disrupted. Their whole day was disrupted. Their classes disrupted. So now that if their students don't perform because they missed a lesson, are we going to blame the teacher? We're not. We need to set policies in this district on what we do when something like this happens. I know it's a lot to suspend 200 students, but honestly, I'd be more proud of the administration if they did than if they just gave them these kudos that they did a great thing when what they did is broke multiple laws and all of the Deer Valley rules, including dress code with the F-bomb all over themselves. So that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Again, yes, it's Board Appreciation Month. I'd like to extend my thanks also for the custom-made book. It was wonderful. I would be lying if I'd say that I always say my heart's full, and it usually comes out right about here. And I had that going on when I got that. That was an unexpected gift, so thank you so much. But something that we have been remiss in discussing is we just celebrated the 100th day of school. So, yay. No? Okay. Well, I'm excited about it. So, appreciate all the hard work that everybody's putting into it and the activity from the kids with engaging with the lessons so that we can have the results that Dr. Pack and Ms. Semenchek discussed with the Dibbles. So, everything is looking good, and we appreciate that. I was able to attend, as Dr. Pack mentioned, the Personal Projects Night at Barry Goldwater. And if you don't have an opportunity, this happens every year, you should find an opportunity to go, because there is literally up to 20 classrooms filled with anywhere from 6 to 10 of the 3-panel science boards and kids talking about something that is related to them as their passion. So whether that's baking or playing a musical instrument or exercising or whatever it is, I saw everything. And those kids, we'll explain it to you. They're actually being judged. There's people walking around with clipboards and judging them. I find it kind of interesting because you can find the kids that would really prefer not to talk to more people than they have to, because you walk in, you make a beeline towards them, and they kind of turn away and hope you go away. You're not carrying a clipboard. I don't want to talk to you. But for those that will take the time to sit there and explain their passion to you, it really is amazing to hear them be able to articulate the hows and the whys of their project. I was able to show up for and attend the Pop Luncheon. If you don't know what that is, that's our presidents of PTAs in the district. They show up for a district level meeting. This time it was at Avenue 27, and our culinary class prepared lunch for the group. And they get a download of all things DVUSD, most of the things that we cover in our board meetings, but we give it to them at a more granular level for their benefit so that they can go back to their schools and talk about strengths and opportunities that exist in the district. So it was a wonderful event attended by quite a few folks. And with CTE on the horizon, CTE month, there was a tour offered to everybody in attendance by the CTE ambassadors, which are kids that are on the campus, if you're unaware of that. And that was amazing. The Invention Convention, as everybody has mentioned, this was the first year that DVUSD has participated, and our gifted and talented classes got involved in that through ASU. This project actually started by the Henry Ford Museum, and they operate through ASU in the state of Arizona. This is the second year for the state of Arizona, first year for DVUSD. 210,000 kids nationwide participated in this last year, and in some cases, some of these inventions actually come to fruition. So I was able to be a judge this year, so I had to attend a couple of classes so that we'd know what we were looking for and a rubric to help grade and guide the children along their way. And a couple of the examples of some of the inventions we came up with, or the kids came up with rather, they were encouraged to not necessarily make it a science project. Unfortunately, when you talk invention, a lot of kids, that's where their minds go. But one young man wanted to develop a color glove, and his thought process behind that was that he has members of his family that are going blind. And he thought how neat it would be to make something that they could touch an item and know what color it was. And in his mind, this glove that he would put on, and he actually made a working model, but the working model was substantially large. But that's okay because this is all a process for invention. But the glove would tap on them in Braille, right, what the color is. So it was pretty amazing. And there was a bioplastic. A young lady actually created a bioplastic in her kitchen at home as a replacement for some of the plastics that we have. And in her panel, she showed the different levels of composition in different environments with this bioplastic. It was really amazing. Wanted to give a shout out to Miss Ann Ordway. For those of you that know her, she has not gone, she has not forgotten. And her and I are blessed to have a contact with a local sweet treats company that likes to give us some of their overstock once in a while, not out-of-date stuff, nothing like that. And we run around to as many schools as we possibly can with what they give us at the time, and we call it our snack attack. And we fill up the teachers' lounges with various assorted sweet goods so that they will have something to snack on throughout the day and show the community's appreciation for them. So that's about all I've got this time around. I thank everybody for the opportunity to serve. It's all you.
All right, we've got a grocery list here. Well, the Student Superintendent's Advisory Council is working on their summit. We have one meeting left before the big event, Leadership Summit, in March 5th, I believe, at Gary Goldwater High School. About 300 kids will show up for that, and about 80 of our kids put on a little summit for them. So if you want to come and see that, board members, that is worth, it's quite the spectacle. So let me know if you want to go see it, and I can hook you up to how to get in and what times and those kinds of things. Teresa Milks was GCU's Principal of the Month. She's the principal at Notera Canyon. Congratulations to her. Found out last week. We did have a state title last week. State Palm, I believe, was at OC. I don't know if we're going to hit our 70 titles again this year, but I said that last year we would. And we did last year, 2 years in a row. So maybe the waterline is 70 state titles in career and technical education, fine arts, and academics and athletics. So stay tuned. So good job, OC. We have our quarterly sub recognition. That's on February 4th. If you want to see that, that's pretty cool. Those are picked by the schools, and you get to meet of our substitute teachers and thank them. So welcome to come to that February 4th. We'll be doing another, I do podcasts every month, as you know. Sometimes twice a month, but Conversations with Kurt will be on February 5th, and it'll probably be around the boundaries a lot of our long-range planning. And I want to thank Ms. Simachek, too, reminding folks that are watching that the long-range planning is really aiming for 2035. We're thinking a decade ahead because our neighborhood's going to change, and we need to get ready and be in front of it so we're ready when the exponential growth takes off. Some data was just released about a month ago about Deer Valley in relationship to student loss, because people might think that that's a variable in the equation. It is not really, because if you look at from 2019 to 2024, our neighbors significantly lost more students than we did, and I think it's our academic excellence that's in obviously athletics and fine arts as well. But in the last 5 years, 2019 to 2024, Peoria lost 6%, Cave Creek lost 21%, Paradise Valley 13%, Scottsdale 8%, Dysart 6%, Fountain Hills 21%. If you go down to other peers, Chandler 11%, Gilbert 6%, Mesa 11%, Tucson 11%, and the AZ charter schools lost 14% during those 5 years, but Deer Valley only lost 4%. So we've been able to hold our own with the declining birth rate and obviously the affordability of houses and the movement of people throughout the environment and choice. So we've been able to hold our own. So pretty proud of those numbers to be able to say that we're the leader of not losing students. So the long range planning is really about the future, not the current. And so we have to get ready. And to Ms. Simachek's point, there's a bunch of dominoes that are connected. And so we want to make sure that we look at the whole puzzle and look at all, mainly the northern section of our district, and get ready for the explosion that's going to happen around TSMC with students. There's going to be another anthem and a half that's going to come out of the ground there. So pretty exciting, but it is probably the most, one of the tougher decisions that board members have to make. So I know the pressure. And so we're getting closer to that. I think we have one meeting left that Mr. Botfeld talked about as well. We did have a PLC day. We get so many requests from districts to come check out our PLC model. And so we decided, rather than doing 6 individual ones, we had a little conference, and those 6, 8 schools, whatever, showed up and had really enjoyed it. I want to thank Paula and her team for putting that together. It was a hit. I was at the superintendent's meeting last week, and several came up and said that was the best PD they've ever had. So good job, Dr. DeMarto. Next board meeting is February 17th. So we're going to have a work session before that about boundaries. It'll be about an hour and a half before to give the board a little more opportunity to ask questions. So that's coming. And happy birthday to Mr. Carver. I believe he's 29 again. Again, for the, 7th time?
27 years of experience, yes.
Nice. That's it.
I want to thank everybody for participating and watching tonight. Future board meetings can be found on the district website. Please allow us time to update as we have made changes last meeting and this meeting. And motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're all done, folks. Have a good night. Drive safe.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, is it today?
It was Saturday.